A compelling detective story, a cloak and dagger action, and a romantic drama, all these stories were taken from real life. The history of Kazakhstan is inseparable from the world history. Reflections on history, our version.
A circular world map. They look almost like oil paintings, but dry quickly. The local Kashgar things are not for entertainment, but rather art-related small business. These pictures are painted with acrylic paints. It's said that these paints do not wash off. This is a studio, and these are works of art. It takes 2 days to paint a picture. If a picture is quite simple to paint, they start doing it immediately in your presence. The most common difficult pictures involve historic themes.
Muhammed Kashgari.
It is a history of linguistics in pictures. Mahmud Kashgari is probably the best-known writer, ethnographer and linguist in the enlightened Turkic world. At the same time, very little is known about his life. The Karakanid period was one of the most advanced ones in the history of Central Asia. Literature was flourishing under Karakan. Yusuf Balas-Saguni and Mahmud Kashgari were two big names in the 11th century. Mahmud Kashgari preserved the meaning of ancient words which were used here. Chapter 1. The Prince by Blood. I saw that Tengri had created a world of plenty for the Turkic peoples and the universe above their world. Tengri called them Turkic people and made them the owners of the state. He chose rulers from the Turkic peoples, gave them power to rule people, and always supported them. From Divan at-Turk by Mahmud Kashgari. Nights and days of the world pass like wanderers. They deprive those they meet of power. Everyone interprets these words, evoking melancholy and thoughts about pointless existence in accordance with their perception of the world. Think about it on the streets of Kashgar, because it was Mahmud Kashgari who said this. Mahmud Kashgari wrote in Arabic. Mahmud Kashgari really wrote such a didactic poem in the Turkic language.
Дидактическую поэму велик сочинил по-тюркски.
His full name was Mahmud ibn Hussayn ibn Muhammed al-Kashgari. It's considered that he was born in 1029 and died in 1101. According to another version, he was born 10 or 20 years later and died later too. Neither the date of birth nor the date of death of the great Turkologist has been established yet. It is unknown where and when he wrote his work and where he died. There are only some more or less witty hypotheses related to that. From the Mahmud Kashgari article by Andrei Kononov. According to his surname, he was born either in the good city of Kashgar or near it. Is it true? We only know for certain that Mahmud was born in a country called the Karakanid Khanate. He was buried in the Abd al-Karim Satuk Bughra Khan Mausoleum in 940. He was the person who had formed the great empire. A Persian man of letters wrote, "We know the names of the kings of Karakan dynasty only thanks to poets. As for different information about it, it is rather scanty." The mausoleum has remained here on this hill. The mausoleum was called Tektermas. There's no information about who was buried in the mausoleum. Presumably, that person was an aristocrat who lived here in the 10th or 14th century.
Который жил здесь в период или с X века, или в XIV веке.
Tektermas translates from the Turkic language as an unquiet place. It is unknown why it was called so. It's easy to see the Talas River from the high bank. According to Kashgari's words, everything was familiar to him here. His ancestors had shaped this history. Taraz was always the center of political life of not only the Karakhanate Khanate, which was natural. It was a very rich city and the local ruler was a very wealthy too. Of course, it's most likely that merchants paid a kind of tribute to the local ruler to be guaranteed the safety of their journey in this area of the Great Silk Road and to get the right to sell their goods here. In the 1st century, the fight for power was in the eastern part of the Karakhanate Khanate, which lay in the area from Kashgar to Isfizjab, a city near Tashkent. Muhammad Khan killed his brother and ascended his throne. Muhammad Khan left the Khanate to his eldest son called Hussayn and made him his heir. Muhammad had another wife and little son. This situation made her angry and she decided to poison Muhammad. As a result, he and a few members of his family died. From Majma al-Tawarik. Mahmud Kashgari was a descendant of the Karakhanids, the ruling dynasty of the Eastern Turkic Khaganate. His grandfather ruled the country for 15 months and then decided to hand over power to his son. As a result of the conspiracy, he, Mahmud's father and grandfather were poisoned. Those who survived the internecine war ran away. Mahmud was among them too. Hypothetically, Hussayn was the scientist's father and ruler of Bashhan, a city located near Isikul. It is said that the future linguist was born here. However, there were 2 Bashans and one was located near Taraz. There were about 20 towns around the city of Taraz. Incidentally, it's mentioned in medieval sources that Hussayn was the emir of the Taraz region and Isfizjab, which was not far from Shymkent. If his father ruled here, the son could be born in this area too. It is unclear where this bloody situation took place too. According to the popular version, it happened in Kashgar. Mahmud himself mentioned that his father had been born in Bashhan and Kashgar and Balasagun, where the cities where kings lived. He did not give any other information. Chapter 2. The Wanderer. I've been to all the Turkic steppes. I memorized the lively and rhyming speech of the Turkic peoples, Turkmens, Oghuz Turks, Chigils, Yakhmas, and Kyrgyz. I engaged in this in order to understand even small differences, and I remember their language very well. I systematized them properly. Then I wrote this book in a very clear and elegant way and called it Divan Lughat al-Turk, which meant Turkic Dialects Dictionary. From the Divan Lughat al-Turk by Mahmud Kashgari. Strive to become virtuous when you achieve this aim. Do not be proud. Mahmud Kashgari said, it is obvious that he had received an excellent education, which meant he was from the nobility. According to some data, he studied at the Kashgar madrasa. A madrasa was built in this place in the Karakhanid epoch in the 11th century. It was reconstructed later. Now we have this small building which is only 100 years old. However, there are small shops in this building nowadays, but not a madrasa. Probably Mahmud Kashgari studied here. He studied literature, jurisprudence, theology, history, geography, the Arabic and Persian languages, and of course, he followed the rule of that time and mastered military skills. Nothing is mentioned about whether he had a family and children. These are dark times now. Purity and morale have been lowered. People have more malice and fair heads have disappeared. From the Diwan Lughat al-Turk by Mahmud Kashgari. According to Kashgari, suffering makes you stronger and more virtuous. He experienced this himself. It is considered that he had to leave Kashgar in 1057 and started traveling. Most likely he joined caravans as a merchant or diplomat. According to his work, together with caravans, he visited the land of present-day Kazakhstan a few times. The area described by Mahmud Kashgari in his dictionary in general covers the area of present-day Kazakhstan, or at least southern Kazakhstan. Balasagun residents speak the Sogdian and Turkic languages as well as the residents of Taraz and Sayramdu. There are mistakes in the language of all the residents of Argu country. From the Divan Lughat al-Turk by Mahmud Kashgari. According to Mahmud Kashgari, the country between Taraz and Balasagun, where there is a city of present-day Kyrgyzstan, was called Argu because it was located between two mountains.
Махмуд Кашгарский в XI веке писал о том,
Mahmud Kashgari wrote in the 11th century that the people who lived in Sayab and other cities spoke Turkic but could also speak Sogdian. It means they were bilingual.
городов Суяба, там вот всех этих городов. То есть там было в равной степени двуязычие.
Approximately in the 1070s, the noble linguist went to Baghdad. It said that he taught there and decided to write a book, thanks to which he went down in history. He provided us with a reliable picture demonstrating the languages used by the ordinary people. In addition, it contains very important information about the Turkic language grammar of that period, the 10th and 11th centuries.
По грамматике тюркского языка вот того периода 10-11 века.
His work was rewritten many times. It's unknown how much information was lost due to this process. It's considered that the manuscript we have now appeared 3 centuries after the scientist's death. It's in the Istanbul Library at the moment. Chapter 3. A Scientist. In it, I scattered poems and proverbs which are used as wise sayings on happy and unhappy occasions so that the narrator could spread it among other people. I gathered the often mentioned objects and well-known words in the book. As a result, the book has a high value and achieved overwhelming superiority. From the Divan Lughat al-Turk by Mahmud Kashgari. The Turkic and Arabic languages are like two horsemen participating in a race. Mahmud's main aim was to elevate his native language to the level of Quran language. Presumably, it took him over 15 years to gather material, and he worked on the dictionary for over 2 years. Divan Lughat al-Turk, the collection of Turkic dialects, is the most famous work by Mahmud al-Kashgari. He wrote that he had listed everything in alphabetical order in his book. He added sayings, proverbs, and poems to adorn the book, explaining difficult items, and worked on it for years. This book is a real encyclopedia. It includes 3 volumes and 8 books written in the Arabic language. It is about the Turkic people's ethical values, rules of social behavior, perception of the world in the 11th century, elements of Zoroastrianism, teachings and the basis of Islam, and ideology, which was new for the Turkic world. It contains the grammar of dialects of the nomadic Turkic peoples. There was a map of the dialects too. This map was added to the manuscript. This is a quotation from it. I depicted everything as a circle, which is the shape of the earth. It helped me make everything clear. It really becomes clear where the center of the medieval Turkic world was. Its area spread from the Byzantine suburbs to Ethiopia. Kashgar, Balasagun, Barskan, and Talas were in the center. He was interested in everything connected with both geography and history, including legends about Alexander the Great and his campaign against the Chigil. The Chigil is a name of 3 Turkic groups. The first group is a nomadic tribe living in Kuyas, which is a town behind Barzgan. The second group lives in a town near Taraz. This town is called Chigil too, and the name is mainly based on it. From the Divan Lughat al-Turk by Mahmud Kashgari. He recorded folk language, but not the language of artificial literature, which existed only in written form. He recorded colloquial forms used by people and dialects. The Turkic Dialects Dictionary is not the only work by Mahmud Kashgari. However, his other works haven't survived. Epilogue: The destiny not awaiting everyone. The Divan Lughat al-Turk is a unique source containing about 7,000 Turkic words, over 400 proverbs, information on astronomy, food names, diseases, and medicine. There are descriptions of domestic and wild animals, poetry, information on anatomy, metals and minerals, military and sports terminology, historic and mythological characters, children's games, and just thoughts about life. When you encounter trials and hardships, be patient and say they will pass too. Be aware of what time does and do not follow every misfortune being sad. From the Divan Lughat al-Turk by Mahmud Kashgari.